Welcome to the Successful Life Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Berrier, and I'm here with my friend, Sam Wakefield. What's up, brother?
Hey, glad to see you today, man.
Yeah, dude, good to see you as always. So I'm really happy. So you've been on the show before and always so great to talk with you. I think very highly of you as not just, I think very highly as you of a person, but I also know the changes that you make in businesses with your sales training. I was fortunate enough to sit through some of that here in Raleigh at a local
hmm
company and see how you run your sales training. And one of the things that I thought I would point out is you're no bullshit dude. Like you're a super nice guy, but when you're doing your training, like you don't really put up with any bullshit. Like it's right, like you're there to work. And so
Right.
that was refreshing to see. But Sam, maybe for folks that don't know who you are, can you give a little background?
hmm Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for the kind words, man. I definitely did owe back to you, man. I love what you've built with the podcast and staying connected. It's cool when you find somebody that you resonate with, and you just know in life you find people that have your back and you have theirs, and no matter what happens, it's cool to form those bonds. And so, you definitely appreciate that. But yeah, so a little of my background. I've been in the HVAC industry 20 years and in home sales for a long time. Not just HVAC, of course, that's branched out into a lot of things. Solar and home performance and insulation and you name it. We've done been involved in sales and a lot of things. But a lot of it has been through growing. I've been involved in two exits along the way. I've been sales manager, sales trainer, and helped quadruple the size of an organization in Austin. And then for the last 6 years, I've run the Close It Now sales training podcast. It's mindset. It's all things about being someone worth buying from. The focus is on personal growth, and sales training just happens to be the sideline, the way it's really interestingly become. And travel all over the country, helping companies multiply their numbers. And we have a huge virtual presence as well for individuals that want to that maybe not have a support group or a company to support them. We really are there a lot for those individuals too. So that's where we've been. We've got a couple things happening this next year, and so that's a little history of who I am. And it's been my definitely an honor and privilege to get to help a lot of people really change their lives.
Yeah. I'd also encourage people to join your Close It Now Facebook group. Lots of value added in that group. I don't know how you do it, but well done. Well done.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's definitely it's not only just what I do, it's my passion. When you're an entrepreneur and you find that thing that just absolutely lights your fire, when you get better or a better way to say is when you get into flow, it's not working at all. It's just literally that's what it's who you are and what you become, and it's just an extension of that. So that's a yeah, the Facebook group is a great, we do a ton of training in there. I've got we can get into some of those details later, but it's a lot of fun. It's a great community. We've almost 3,000 people now.
Dang. Yeah, it's grown.
Yeah, it's growing.
Well, so it's interesting. So you mentioned flow, and I understand exactly what you mean by that. It's almost like it feels effortless, but
hmm
sometimes, especially running your own business, things feel like they stop flowing from time to time, and then you have to
Whew.
change
Yeah, it
paths.
does. hmm
What's been your experience with that?
Oh man, that's an interesting question, and I appreciate it. Analyzing this last couple years was a huge movement for or growth moment for Close It Now, and at the same time, when you hit new levels, I heard an expression years ago: every new level has new devils. And basically, it's like when you hit those when you feel like you're getting this place of mastery in a subject or a topic or whatever it is, and you find out the new thing, the new thing is, oh man, I'm back to square one and I'm an amateur again, and this sucks. That's what happens a lot of times, and that's that happened recently, the last few months in with me and with the company. And I realized that when I started really analyzing it and pulling it apart, is if it's to be, it's up to me. And there's another expression, if the fish stinks, it stinks from the head down. And I realized it exposed all of the new levels in my life that I've got to tighten up. And it's really, it's interesting how closely it correlates to the something that I absolutely live by is how you do anything is how you do everything. And when you open a door into complacency or laziness or trying to take the easy route in one area of your life, even if it's not related to, say, the business, it absolutely, there is no just a little bit, it's all or nothing. So that complacency in another area of life will absolutely bleed through to everything you do. And you don't even realize it until you have to make some serious course corrections sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. I went through something similar recently as well. I've been doing sales, been doing a lot of things for Who Hire. And it's interesting because when I started, the hot leads that were coming in, they were they were pretty much hot all the time. And so
Mm-hmm.
I found myself thinking everything was going to be a hot lead. And then I was handling all of those sales calls like they were hot leads and they weren't hot leads. And I had to
Mm-hmm.
really look at my sales process and really evaluate how the things that I was not doing right. And I had to
Mm-hmm.
really make a massive course correct and change and go back to the drawing board and follow some scripts. And it was very humbling for me to have to do that, but it
Yeah.
needed to happen. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful to be open to my way is not always the right way. And I'm totally
Mm-hmm.
fine with that. If somebody's got a better way of doing something, I'm totally good with that. But it is
Absolutely.
painful, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Like
that's interesting that you mentioned it. I went through the same thing. When you're out in the field and you're after so many years of winning the top achiever awards in not just your own company, but across networks, and you hit that, like I was talking about, you hit that level of mastery. So I was out there as the top dog at every single HVAC company I ever worked at, and then became growing the sales team and all these things. And then I step into selling coaching. Yeah, at first, for the first 12 months, every single thing that came in to close it now was that insanely hot lead. But at this point, we've worked through them
right.
most. And I'm not too big to admit that I sucked at selling training and I had to relearn how to sell stuff too. So I'm in the same boat with you. It's really interesting, this comparison. But that's it. What I've learned through the process, and I'm working through that. I, what I've learned in the process is the system is the same. The conversation is the same. Initially, I was just treating it like, oh, here it is. Here it is. It sells itself. You want it. Well, no, that's not how things work. That just means there was something done on the front end before we talked to warm them up and get them to a buying decision before we talked on the phone. So then when you unpack that, okay, every single buying journey, it's not just a yes or no. It's every single person has a buying journey. How do we grab their hand and lead them down that buying journey? And we've got to find out where they're starting from in that journey. And so we know how many steps we have to walk with them to get them to the purchase decision. And it's humbling, but it's also thrilling and exciting to be learning something new and different than what we've always done.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So tell me about, I always like to ask, I remember you and I having several in-depth conversations about some personal things you were going through. And if it's all right, I'd like to just dive into a little bit of that.
Mhm.
You both have kids, whether they're ours or whether they're somebody else's. Either way, we've got kids that
Mhm.
live in our house. And
Right.
there's challenges that come. Are they biologically your kids?
So I have two that are mine and three that are not.
Okay. So there's, I have none that are biologically mine. And so here's the, the benefit and the challenge of that is I don't, everything's black and white with me. Like I see
Mm-hmm.
it for what it is. And there's very little emotional, or if any, there's very little emotional attachment to my decisions. They're just, or my,
Mm-hmm.
or how I see things rather,
Right.
which in my previous marriage, it was the same way. And I would see things in my previous marriage that just blatantly, I'm like, if you can't, didn't make sense to me how you couldn't see it the way that I was seeing it because it
Mm-hmm.
was so clear to me. But when you have to, when you attach that biological component to it, there's something there that's different from me not having that biological component. And so with you, you went through some things, and I don't know if it was your biological kids or the other kids, but you went through some tough times recently. And I'd like for you just to talk about
Mm-hmm.
that for a minute, how you overcame that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Actually, I'd like to camp out on the difference in biological. And I hear you when you're talking about seeing things very black and white and no emotion attached when they're not your biological children. It doesn't mean we love them any less, but it's really complex when you get both in a house. If and this happens if you're not intentional about it, and sometimes they're very unaware. Is the same exact logic and black and whiteness that you use with your non-biological children, somehow that disappears when it's your own and you don't even realize it. And so your tone is softer, you're making decisions based on a whole different perspective of empathy and sympathy and things that you realize that you should be making the same parenting decisions for the non-biological kids. And boy, that's a big wake up call when you realize, oh, damn, I'm not treating people equally, right? There's special favors here. And I didn't even realize it was happening type of moments, right? So that's always a journey when you first everybody gets dumped into a house and it starts to shake it up and like, how does it fall out? So that's so if I could say anything to the listeners, if you're in this complex, this mixed family type of a situation, just analyze yourself, right? Are we treating everyone the same? Kids are kids. They don't know any better. They respond to our leadership. What are we showing them by our leadership in the way that we parent? So that's part one to that. But getting to directly to your question, the yeah, we had some interesting journeys this year. My my second oldest came home one day and said, "I don't think that I want to live on this planet anymore." And is 11, which is it was, oh my gosh, what in the world's going on? We've At first it was disheartening, and but the at the same thing, anytime something like that happens, if we live this life of radical responsibility, then that means I was like, okay, what's my fault? What do I need to learn here, and what changes can I make, or what can I do to affect the situation? So taking that responsibility that to have letting this happen. Now, of course, there's a lot. That's weeks of episodes to unpack that on its own. But
But now, quick
when
question.
you,
Let me just interrupt you
yeah,
really quick. So, was it fair to assume that there's a split custody with the children, or were they living with you the whole time, or was it they living with the other parent? How did that have anything to play with it?
that's interesting. There's a lot of complexity there. So it's two houses. This one was living, and then the older one was 13. We're living with at the other house with
Okay.
mom, and there's a lot of things going on, a lot of things not going on, a lot of things I just didn't know about. And not to push anybody under the bus, there's not necessarily any negativity going on. There's no abuse necessarily or anything, but it was much more of a situation where there just wasn't much going on, and left for just a long time being, when a kid's left on their own for a good chunks of time, the mind wanders, right? And don't hear what I'm not saying. What I'm saying is a parent was always there. We just get busy with life and realize that we have so much going on, especially me building a business and in this launch phase. The bandwidth is so limited. We have to be so intentional to cultivate relationships with our kids that I found myself really lacking in that. And as a consequence, my second oldest all of a sudden was like having these moments of just suicide. And so we recognized real fast that, one, it's a cry for help and attention. Put them through some programs, and basically the decision was made that when summer started, they all moved in with me in my house. And school started in the fall. The oldest one moved back over, and everything's good there. And things are much, much better. And it's happy to report that it's like a completely different person now. And my son Ray, he's absolutely blossomed and just grown into becoming the person that, really recognizing the difference and experiencing the difference in outlook. And we focus on gratitude and being thankful for things. And it's just been a fun journey. But thanks for asking about that, though. That's not everyone has the Instagram life. And I think it's important that people that listen to the podcast and stuff don't just hear the highlight reel.
Yeah. So I want you to go back for a second. I've often found it challenging to decipher between a cry for help and a cry for attention. And they may be the same thing. I'm not sure, but it does, it feels like there's a thin line there.
Yeah. I feel like, at least from my experience going through this, and then, of course, having what that does too in a family of so many people, then that means we definitely have to have the conversation about what's going on with everyone else in the family. So the rest of the family is, of course, the 13-year-old, but also 8-year-old and 6-year-old twins. And they're insanely curious and wanting to know what's going on and why all these changes. That really, you have to be intentional about having that healthy conversation with everybody involved. And from my experience, I would tell you, I think I would say that a cry for help and a cry for attention is almost the same thing. If that cry for attention is left unmet long enough, it will turn into a cry for help.
Yeah, makes sense.
That from what I've seen with all of, just especially from this last few years, holy cow, that is absolutely. And it's the same thing with us, right? We do the same thing, and hell, this translates to business. All you got to do is replace kids or family with team or employees, and it's the same thing. That cry for attention long enough will turn into that cry for help. And if it's an employee, by then they're down the road probably at another company if you could let that go too long.
Yeah, and I know you'll agree with this. I think we've actually probably had conversations about this. I don't remember specifically. When things are showing up in our adult life, that's because there's been things that are unresolved in that 0 to 7 age range, right? Zero to 7, for people with, just for context, from 0 to 7 is when we are, for lack of better terms, programmed, and where we are hardwired to really start to really repeat those same habits over and over. And they're almost impossible to break unless you've done a lot of work. And for you and me, personal development work has really broke through a lot of that. And without personal development, I don't know if those things, and for me, I'm a recovering alcoholic, so it's a whole different story, but I've had I've had recovery steps to help me with seeing other perspectives, if you will. And I think that's what broke the patterns for me, a lot of that. And then a lot of
Right.
meditation and all the other things that we do to grow on a personal level. But yeah, so if those things are unresolved, I mean, I think that they do show up and they show up in our adult life. And lots of times people, when they're pitching a fit about something, that's just really that inner child, so to speak, that was never really attended, that was never
Yeah.
unresolved issues, is what I'll say.
Oh, absolutely. I heard I've got a guest on my show recently. We're actually doing a 4-part series on a lot of family values and things like that. And some of the main concepts are really just absolutely mind blowing. And one of the ones that hit me so heavy the other day is in life, especially as entrepreneurs and as business minded people and growth minded people, in life we're jugglers. We juggle 3 balls. 2 of the balls are glass and 1 is rubber. The good news is our business is the rubber ball. If we drop that ball, it'll bounce back. We can regrow a business. I can almost guarantee you're not going to find a billionaire on the planet or a multimillionaire that hasn't had horrible tragedy in their life or their businesses have gone broke and they've been bankrupt or all these things, right?
That's right.
The business closed and they had to start something else. So your business is the rubber ball. The part that hit me so heavy is your family and your relationships is a glass ball and your health is a glass ball. If we drop that ball, it shatters. And it's insanely more difficult to put that back together. And so when you marry that with this idea of taking radical responsibility for everything in your life and if it's to be, it's up to me mindset, wow, that hits so heavy. And it really immediately helps us I love these awareness moments because it instantly causes change in our life. And to not change, then we have to intentionally go back and avoid it. And so, man, the awareness moment that hit me immediately reprioritized what is important in my life.
Yeah, and it's really easy to lose that in the hustle and bustle of daily life. And I've got to do this, and I've got to get on this call. And it's real easy just to push those things to the side, especially health. That's probably the easiest. I don't know, family and health, both, I think, would be maybe even equally
Yeah.
as easy to push off because it's really simple to say, I've got calls and I'll eat when I want to eat when I can because we think I got to make the money now. The only person that's going to remember that you stayed up all hours of the night and working is going to be your kid when they're older, and you can't really fix
Right.
that then.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the things I want them to remember is I was there, right? It's they don't care. They're not going to remember the stuff later. They remember stuff, yes, no. And I was the only child growing up, and but all of my friends said, "Man, you get all of the crazy stuff." You know what I remember? I remember the times that my parents were there, and I remember the times that my dad worked away for a year, and I never saw him. Those are the things I remember as a kid. I don't remember all the stuff. Who cares, right? And we're all like that. We don't really correlate it.
Yeah, ask anybody that's made a gazillion dollars on their deathbed, and they always say, I wish I'd have just done these things differently, not I wish I'd have made more
Right.
money. Still a hard
Yeah, it's like I wish I
concept.
would have had more time with my family and built more memories and
Yeah.
that made a better lasting legacy, not of the money, but of leaving the wisdom that I have to my kids and grandkids, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we could talk about this all day, and I really enjoy getting into stuff like this because there's people that are listening that this will hit home with, and it's just not
Mm-hmm.
talked about as much as I feel like it should be. So
Oh yeah.
appreciate you sharing that story. It's and I'm really glad to hear that. I don't know, we wanted to say the kid's name, but I'm glad he's doing better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
man, and I appreciate that so much. it's exciting in the transformation, and also it's talk about a learning moment too, right? And we have these moments of in very transformational moments in our life that will instantly direct everything that happens from that point forward and how we see things. And so talking about instant awareness of what to look for in not only kids but everybody around me of signs of, and I've asked deeper questions to everybody I know now. How are you doing? Okay, no, how are you doing?
Yeah.
I don't just want a surface answer. I truly care now. It's let's not just gloss over this, because I despise losing people in my life to things that are very preventable. And this is one of them, right? And we've got it for everybody out there. Check in on your people, check in on all of your relationships. I challenge everybody, send one or two messages right now to one, appreciate somebody, and also see how they actually are doing, and truly with care. So that's my challenge to everybody listening.
Yeah, like that's right. Look, I lost my mom this year. We weren't super close, but she's still my mom. And you don't realize the things that you don't realize these things are going to be gone until they're gone. She
Yeah.
didn't die a death that was like expected necessarily. I'll give you another example. My uncle got
Mm-hmm.
killed like 2 weeks ago, like pulled out in front of a vehicle, and that's it, done. Like,
Oh,
and
geez.
it's just happened immediately. And so you think you wake up in the morning and you wake up just like everybody else. And the way I see it, and it is a slogan in the recovery community, one day at a time, but really,
Mm-hmm.
we can't plan on anything else.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm sorry for one. I'm sorry to hear that. That's definitely my condolences. That my family has definitely had a plenty of fair share of auto accident tragedies in an instant, which is it actually it's interesting because it builds into when we stay focused with growth and all of this idea. It really helps us realize, and this is something I typically do in my trainings, is we start talking about how time is an illusion, how not just how time is an illusion,
That's right.
right? If we think back to anything in the past, everything from 5 minutes ago to this morning to yesterday, it's a memory. It does not exist right now. It just doesn't exist. Time does not exist. Anything in the future is imagination. 2 minutes from now, because all we have is now and it's gone, and now and it's gone. So what is our life? Our life is a combination of our daily habits. And if we want to get a different direction, it might take a long time to change the destination, but it takes it just an instant to change the direction. This is a really famous Jim Rohn quote. And man, our habits are literally what build up every single thing in our life. What are we doing and what are we not doing? What are we saying yes to? And more importantly, what are we saying no to?
Yeah. Yep. I agree. The Power of Now is one of my favorite books on the planet. Like, I just think it's,
Maybe I need to read it.
oh, dude, it's crazy because we think about, if we're thinking about what happened yesterday, or we're thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow, you're not present. You're not in the now. And it's just,
Yeah.
he very clearly articulates that.
It's interesting. I'm glad you mentioned it. So one last little point. This actually is a great segue to tie back to what we were talking about with my kids. Is looking back in my life, I could probably point to a couple years of constantly being focused on the goals in the future and what we're growing with the business and what we're doing, that I was not living in the present. So even when I was in a room with my family, I was not in the room with my family because I was constantly doing business or checking messages, or even if the phone was in a different room, computers in a different room, my mind was focused on all of the things I had to do out there and not being present with them. And so I take ownership and responsibility. That's
Yeah.
it's my fault. So I did doing what it takes to change it.
Yeah. And how many of those things sitting in the living room that you were thinking about in the other room could you control? Zero.
Nothing. None. Not at
Nothing.
all.
No.
And even worse, I don't even remember what we were doing in the room with the family either. So it's
Right.
you literally you're stuck in this limbo of not able to affect anything. And it's just a horrible place to be.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. So let's shift for a moment. You've got some pretty exciting things, a couple of exciting things that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the one in April. I think it's April. I may have messed that up.
Hmm.
Is it in April? Okay, let's talk about that one
Yeah, the
first.
event.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about the event. I am so excited about this event. For the to set a little bit of context, the trades have something I've said over and over. Anything that's been done the same way for 50 plus years is ripe for revolution. That's exactly what is going on in home services and in the trades right now. It's the landscape of all of the home service industries is completely changing right now. Again, and I definitely feel like it's for the better. It had hit this plateau of stagnant that was getting really gross. So the first part of that is one of the things that we're doing with the event is called Relentless, the Ultimate Sales Transformation. It's going to be April 29th, 30th, and May 1st in Boston, Massachusetts. And the one of the foundations for Close It Now in general is I'd been in the trades long enough and been to enough conventions and standing around at the bar after the convention and listening to all of the speakers and all these guys that have grown these 50 million, 100 million, 200 million dollar a year companies. The running joke around a lot of them, not all of them, of course, but the running joke in the trades is how many heart attacks have you had and how many wives have you had while you're growing your business? And it's always rubbed me the wrong way. It's grossed me out so much because it's this idea that in order to grow a successful business, it's one or the other, not both. And I'm here to absolutely say to everyone, you can have both. It's not mutually exclusive. You can have this life. Sometimes things, yeah, go intentionally out of balance where more time is invested in one or the other, but you can have both, right? There's a picture that every bit of this is the springboard from that hit me years ago. It was a picture of a looking into a Ferrari with a convertible Ferrari with the top down looking into the seats, and it was one of the little bit bigger ones that actually has the little bit of a back seat, and in the back seat is a Ferrari completely just kick-ass branded car seat in this Ferrari. And just that's the whole idea is you can have both at a very high level. And that's the foundation for the when I built Close It Now is to our a rising tide raises all ships. Let's fix our industry, but it happens by helping people become better people. So that's the context for kind of getting into the event and just everything we do. What taking us to the event, that means that in order to get different results, we have to do different things. And Close It Now is anything if it's not completely outside the box. If there's this box that the HVAC world is in, we literally live outside of it. The trades are in, we live outside of it. So that this event is going to be really different than anything anybody's ever experienced in the trades. In fact, people recently have been calling us the Tony Robbins of home service training, and we are leaning into that because we're about transformation. We're about helping people become someone worth buying from. Yes, we're going to cover sales skills. Yes, we're going to cover scripting. Yes, we're going to deep dive into that. But there's so much more to it than just that. And so this event is going to be 3 days of deep dive and let's be that person. And we're gonna lead people right into it.
One of the things that comes to mind when you say out of the box is the fact that you door knock as an HVAC person.
Yeah.
It's such a common thing in other industries, but ours not so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that you mentioned that. That's to talk about a boots on the ground way to go to market. I'm actually working with the guy right now. He was just on one of my recent podcasts, a guy named Clark Manwaring. He was responsible for growing the largest door-to-door team in history. He had a team of 15,000 people across the country on the doors and insanely successful. He owns a heating and air company. This is the little piece that blows minds. He owns a heating. We started talking the real close to the beginning of 2024. He had just started his company. Now we just talked the other day. Less than 1 year, he's spent $0 marketing his HVAC company. He's only recruited and had people door knocking for his HVAC company. And this is fun, everybody that's listening, because Corey doesn't know the stats that I'm about to drop. I can't wait to see how he responds. In less than a year, strictly on door to door, his HVAC company is going to do $5 million year one.
What? That's
Legit.
absolutely absurd. Knocking doors.
Knocking doors. This is how it works, right? This is why all the HVAC companies blows their mind when they hear all these other industries, windows or solar or roofing, how companies go from 10 million to 100 million in a couple years. This is not through some insane partnering up with the PE group that dumps cash into your SEO and your digital marketing and all of these things and brings in a million different systems that you never had before. That's happening in HVAC right now, to some good and some detriment. This is roots on the ground organic. This is growth because the company is a company worth working for and with, and it's the most effective way to get in front of more people. This is the other part of it. You were talking about something. You got me on my TED Talk because I get so passionate about this. This is the other piece of it. Before we started recording, we were talking about some big organizations. For example, let's say, let's throw out a number like Carrier, right? Carrier Enterprises. They're what, $7 billion with a B, right? That's just one of. We start to combine all the different HVAC manufacturers. We've got a pretty seriously huge industry. The piece that blew my mind is every bit of that is built on the backs of 5% of US households. 5%. 5%. Other than new construction, that's a one-time thing. For our residential, right? So we're talking about residential, obviously. Yes. Residential, yes. Yeah. We'll pull out all the commercial side of it, so it's going to shrink the numbers to be realistic with this. I'm not just inflating things. But when we talk about the residential market, it's such a small demographic of people who build all of our industry for the day-to-day, the maintenance plans, these crazy company growths that are residential. It's not in the commercial market. When we hear a company go from 50 to 100 million, 5% of the houses in the United States, because something has to be broken or wrong for them to pick up the phone or click on the link or go to your website, do the search. So what is everybody doing with the other 95% of 100 million homes in the United States? Nothing. The way to reach into that market is by doors. We're gonna just introduce ourselves and say, "Hi, I'm a professional and I'm here to help."
Yeah.
It's insane that, and HVAC is the only need-based thing you can possibly knock a door for, really. I mean, you can knock for other stuff, but everything else, when we think about it, alarms to pest control to solar to internet, cell phones. I literally just changed my cell phone plan from somebody that knocked my door the other day because she was a professional. Absolutely. I've been with Verizon for 14 years, and I changed to AT&T cell phones because I had an incredible door knocker at my door, and the offer was too good to refuse.
Huh. You don't even think, I don't know. I don't even think I would even thought that cell phone companies would knock doors.
AT&T has one of the largest door teams in the country.
You're kidding me.
No. Fiber and so cell phones, internet, cell phones and internet at this point, it's huge. It's a huge industry, right?
Wow.
We just didn't think about it. So as company, Google Fiber has a huge door team. They're expanding into markets, putting fiber in. They put people on the boots. And this is crazy for everybody that's like really, all you have to do is step outside of the trades and you learn something new. For a company like Google to use their very first move into any market is to put door people.
Wow.
Success leaves clues.
Yeah, makes sense. That's nuts.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing. We're putting together a ton of coachings for, and we're really putting together some cool stuff. And it's funny that you mentioned this, because one of the packages that I'm building, and it's like almost complete, it'll be ready to roll 2025, is recruiting and training, and then some fractional management of a door-to-door team for companies that want to reach into the market at a fraction, that companies that want to grow, companies that want to grow fast, and do it at a fraction of the marketing dollars to do it. New client acquisition. So there's cool tools like Who Hire that we're partnering up with you guys to incorporate into this program, because man, if we can shortcut anything we can do to shortcut this process to get on the street with the right people, it's going to be insanely effective to do.
So I can imagine or a question I have a lot of people is like, where do you find people there? Because where do you find these door knockers? I think what you just said there's a solution, right? You don't have to find them. We have people that can find
Yeah.
them for them. And
You
you're
know,
saying,
I think yeah, you're totally right. We can, it has to start with a culture within the organization of recruiting. We're not talking about hiring. We're not talking about a job posting and then hope for the best. The culture has to be recruiting, which is a different mindset than just hiring people.
yeah,
So that's the first shift, is we have to like always be recruiting. When you have a waiter at a restaurant that's incredible, start the conversation, get their information, ask them if I can show you a way to multiply your income by doing what you're already doing and what you're really good at, would you be open to more information? They will always say yes. Get their information and then have a meeting with them, right? That's an easy word track for anywhere you're at, but it's got to start with being a culture of recruiting. And then when you add tools to speed that process, then you're on the right track. If you try to make that shift, otherwise, it's a really clunky way to get there. And then something happens, you don't even know the basics of it.
yeah, yeah, that makes complete sense. So I know that we're getting close on time, and I do want to ask you, you're coming out with a new book.
I am, yeah. Oh, let's wrap up the event real quick though.
Yeah, by all means.
This is fun because we'll go right into the book, because the event is the in-person version of a couple things that we put together for the book. So the sales transformation, it's going to be incredible for everybody. Reach out to us, get your teams there. We're literally changing lives at these events, as well as going back and changing the complete face of your organization for culture, for just urgency, for intensity. And people are just happier because now we're helping them like really get back to the fun of the trades, the fun of helping and serving people. It should be fun, right? If we're not having fun along the way, we got some other problems. So thanks. Yeah, that lands us right at the book. The book is called Inner Revolution. It launches December. Let's see. I'm going to make sure we get the right number on this, because I actually said the wrong date the other day. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not right. It launches in December, and it is going to be the 6th and 7th. So we do have I'll make sure to get you the info to get in the show notes. We do have a pre-release, a sign up for everybody that wants to get on the list for the book. It's called Inner Revolution. It's a book that I co-authored with 19 other authors. And the entire purpose is, when someone is ready to go in that inner growth journey, this is going to be a really key book, because I talked about the power of language, and not only internally, but also how to see results with, in fact, the title of my chapter is Change Your Language, Change Your Results. And then everybody else in the book wrote that they really talked about their specialty, which is, some people it's health, some people it's nutrition, some people it's fitness, some people it's more of a relationship focus, some people it's a romantic relationship focus. all of these different people came together because we know, a top salesperson or a top business person or anybody growth minded, it's especially with sales, it's more than just the sales skills. It's everything else that makes that top performer. So I'm stoked about the book. It'll be my first one to actually come out. I've put together a couple gifts for it. It's okay if I go over what the launch gifts are?
Sure.
So this is fun. I love to talk about this because I want to hear your opinion. There's another piece that I don't know that I've mentioned to you that I've done with it. But so for the first 2 weeks, once the book launches, this is the big gift and it's only 2 weeks. So you've got to get the book and you've got to sign up. I'm doing a free coaching session for every person who gets the book that wants it. So it's a 1 hour coaching session. Normally that's $1,000, but I'm giving that away with the launch of the book. So for everybody listening, sign up and get the 1 hour coaching session. We will work through something and you will see some immediate results because of whatever we cover. So every single time we've done that, everybody says, wow, this is incredible. So free coaching session for the first 2 weeks. The other two things that come with the book, and this is forever, for perpetuity. One is a quote book I put together of some of my favorite quotes for top performers. And of course, I had to slide in a couple nerdy quotes. We've got some Gandalf in there but they're very much impactful. And I had to get in my local hometown homie, Matthew McConaughey. We got his all right in there. But at the end of the day, that's a big one, right? We've got to be all right with everything before we move forward. This is the one that I'm the most excited about. I recorded a hypnosis for top sales performers because like you and I have talked, actually, I think we talked about this on our last time we were together, our internal belief system and who we think we are and how we see ourselves determines our success. And so if you don't like the word hypnosis, and I'm not good at programming you to instantly turn into the serial killer or bomb Africa or bomb Russia or anything like that, like all the old hypnosis movies we've seen. No, what it is just mindfulness. It's just a meditative. In fact, let's turn this around. Corey, tell us a little bit about hypnosis, meditation, mindfulness, and that self-image and how it relates. So I'm excited about this. It's for top performers that want to see themselves differently.
Yeah. When you think about it's really reframing how you currently think about whatever the thing is, whether it's every time I walk up to a door, they're going to say no, or they're not going to buy, or they're going to say this, or they're going to say that. You reframe and retrain your brain to stop thinking that way before you get into the house. And if you can do that, then you're going to have a different conversation. And really, that's what it comes down to. Hypnosis is not, I'm going to make you walk like a chicken, like you see in movies. Like, it's just ridiculous. I'm not saying that maybe some people could do that, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a mindset shift for a different result. And if that's what you want, then I do believe this will help. And I've had my experience with hypnosis, and I think it's really cool that you're doing that. There's a lot of power in repetition, a lot of power in your words, as you said. There's change your language, change your results, and I agree with that.
Yeah, it's so powerful, and that's the things that we're doing different. I think is really one of the reasons that our results, especially when we do on-site trainings with companies that have us out, or we're doing our virtual, I think that's a huge part of why the results from Close It Now are pretty dramatically different and much longer lasting than other trainers in our industry. Nothing against any of them, but they're training the boots on the ground. Here, say this, then say this. If they say this objection, you say these words, and you just gotta work harder and go grind your face off. And we're here saying you don't have to work harder. Let's work smarter. We can dramatically change results. And at the same time, it all has to do with what we do internally first. We're flipping it on its head, because most people think if I do, then I'll have, and then I'll become that person. And that's opposite. It has to be do have. We have to become the person first, and that takes the inspired action, and then you'll get the results. Any other way is not a lasting change type of a formula.
Yeah, that's right. I totally agree with you. I think that mindset is, and look, it's not an overnight thing, that's for sure.
No.
But you've got to take a step in the right direction if you want to change the direction of your life. And that's just that,
Mm-hmm.
it's that simple. Has everything come easy to me or to you? No, it has not. But it's taken a lot of work and a lot of uncomfortable shit to get there. You know what I mean?
Word.
Like, there's, do I want to sit and listen to book? I do to listen to books, so that would have been a bad analogy. But I haven't always.
Yeah. Strap Time University, right?
Like, I listen to books all the time because I want to constantly feed my mind with different information. So I have, Jonathan says this, things are good or bad by comparison. I like comparison. I like to see what this salesperson is saying in this book and what this, maybe it's the same shit, but it hits different sometimes. And hell, I listen to books sometimes 2 and 3 times because I always hear something different. Because I may be doing something while he's saying, I may be in the middle of something and maybe I miss a piece and I don't want to miss anything.
Oh, I love it. In fact, that's funny you mentioned that. I actually started the Sales Boss this morning. So for everybody that doesn't know, Jonathan Porter Wissman, his book is called The Sales Boss, and it's how to grow, not just recruit and grow sales teams. It's much more. So far, it's been really awesome because it's, again, starts internal. What are the components of a great leader of a sales team, and how to think differently? And like we started talking about that conversation, I realized that I am a killer top performer, and the new devils at this new level are okay. I've never grown a coaching company before, right? So what are the pitfalls? What are the things along the way? One thing I can definitely say is the immediate ninja trick, super quick ninja tip for everybody out there. When you say you're going to do something like, hey, I'll get you that as soon as we're off here, I'll get you that email that'll have this and this in it. Just do it.
Like,
don't instantly let your brain shut down into procrastination mode and wait a couple of days later. So this is for everybody. That it sometimes, and I, being the visionary total ADHD salesperson, that's a hard skill for me to sharpen that when you say you're going to do it, immediately do it. Because I'm the world's worst. I have changed my affirmation. In the past, I've been the world's worst procrastinator. I'm currently incredible at implementation. Right. So that's my new affirmation, but I know that it's a journey to get there.
Yeah, dude, I am a terrible procrastinator, meaning I don't do it. I just don't do it. Like, look, Atomic Habits was a big thing, right? If I'm going to, whether it's when we get off the call, I need to do this thing. I need to do that thing right then if I'm going to fulfill my word. Otherwise, you're not getting it. And I'm going to have to say, sorry, dude, I didn't get it to you. I'll get it to you tomorrow. And then I'm not going to get it to you tomorrow. So I just have to stop what I'm doing, whether it's put a note in, whether it's whatever it is, and I have to make sure it's done right then and there, or it's not going to get done.
Gosh, that's so true. This is a big one. And for everybody listening, don't be the person that hears this and then doesn't do it, because I will tell you, if you let this go long enough, your lesson will have dollars attached to it.
Yep.
And then if you let it go again, those dollars get bigger and bigger.
Yep.
And I can absolutely and man, talk about transparency. We lost, close it now. We lost 70% of our revenue a few months ago. Was it necessarily because of that exact thing? No, but I can tell you that had I been way more disciplined with that in my life, maybe things would be different. I don't know. But I recognize those moments of what type of lessons do we need. Let's get our lessons early when the consequences are small, before we start talking about 6-figure lessons.
Yeah, 100%. The small things matter, dude. They pile up, and You don't get to the big things unless you do the small things. It's just that simple.
Yeah,
So,
man. There was a years and years ago, last quote. I just love quotes, and literally my brain is a collection of incredible quotes from people that I've read or listened to for over the years that like just turns into whatever this is. But one of the things that I heard really early on that hit me really heavy, I was in network marketing for a long time and several different companies, and there was a leader. His name was Bradley Hager, and he said, and I don't know even know that he originated this, but this is the first place I heard it, is leader of one, leader of many. If I can't lead one, I can't lead any. And it hit me so heavy. I'll say it again for everybody to hear it. Leader of one, leader of many. If I can't lead one, I can't lead any. Talking about myself. And the second, boy, that's that. Talk about radical responsibility.
yeah. Sam Wakefield, my friend, I appreciate you coming on today. It was fire like always. And if you could, really quick, where can people sign up for the event and where can they get the book?
Yep. So they can, the book will be, I'll make sure to get you all the links. But first of all, go join the Close It Now Facebook group. We'll have every bit of that posted in there. Email me directly, sam@closeitnow.net. And go to closeitnow.net to the website and fill out the form there. That is the way, and then put in the notes what you want to know about. Fill out the form on the website or email me directly, and we'll get you the links and the information for the book. We'll get you on that pre-order list. We'll get you we're still in super early bird for the event, which means it's 33% off right now. So we're doing it at a third of the cost. So right now, until the end of the year, until the end of December 31, 2024, it's $1,000 off per ticket, which is going to be a huge discount, especially if a company wants to bring some teams. So email me directly. I'm sure if you reach directly out to Corey, he'll route you to me as well. And Corey is in the Facebook group if you want to hang out with both of us in there. And so join the Close It Now Facebook group. Email me, sam@closeitnow.net, or go to closeitnow.net and fill out the form there. We'll make sure to get you the info.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on again.
You're welcome.